Look for ways to try to ease our minds, forced into a change. I guess it had to be this way. But do your best to try to stay away. The day they closed the world, we all went inside, looking for the light. The day they closed the world, we all realized what it means to try. So hold on to the love, don't you be afraid. There come a time when you will have your say, and don't forget to pray the Lord to keep us safe. We will live to fight another day. The day they closed the world, we all went inside, looking for the light. The day they closed the world, we all realized what it means to try. I can feel it coming, I can see it miles away. I can feel the sun of brighter days. I can hear the laughter, I can see your smiling face. I can feel the love that's on the way. The day they closed the world, we all went inside, looking for the light. The day they closed the world, we all realize what it means to try. The day they closed the world, we all went outside, looking for the light. I can feel it coming, I can see it miles away. I can feel the sun of brighter days. I can hear the laughter, I can see your smiling face. I can feel the love that's on the way. I can feel it coming, I can feel it coming. I can feel it coming, I can feel it coming.
Do not fear! Saf is here, and welcome to Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories. And who do we have today? Well, look, we got the black man. We got the black man. We got Blocky, and let me tell you about Blocky. My guest today is the one and only, And if you guys know about house music, you know about this chap, Mr. Brandon Block. Brandon was born in 1967. He probably hates me telling you his age, but he don't look a day older, whatever. He was born in Wembley. He's a Londoner, born and bred. He's a proper geezer. He rose to fame in the late 80s and 90s as a DJ, a renowned world legendary DJ, and he's still getting people on the dance floor. This guy just rocks. His hedonistic lifestyle led him to being given just 2 weeks to live. He's a survivor, and we're going to talk about it. He's hit the media so many times. He really has. In the year 2000, he had a little spat with Ronnie Wood from the Rolling Stones at the Brit Awards, and I love to hear about that. He probably doesn't like talking about that, but you know what? People who don't know about house music and don't know about Brandon, they know about him after that incident. In 2017, he was in Celebrity Big Brother, and he left after a week. But putting all that to one side, it's about what Brandon Block does today. He helps thousands of people by raising awareness over mental health issues and drug abuse on so many platforms. He's got his happy days and tuned out projects that he does. I've actually been to one of his tuned out projects. Unfortunately, he wasn't there, but I met a very good friend of his and his partner in crime, if you like, Paul Byrne. But he gives people a voice to share what they've been through and what they're going through. This is inspirational people, inspirational stories. I'm part of Spiritually Gone Wild, an amazing platform from California. I'm Saf Surgery, and without further ado, Mr. Blocky, where you at, my man?
Yeah.
Hey! Oh, God.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Oh, top of the world, brother. How you doing? You all right?
Very good, very good. Nice to see you, and thank you for having me on, mate. It's lovely to share the love and share the whatever else in these strange times. Seems a lot of us out there are talking through these live streams at the moment. It's good to connect, and really I thank you for getting me on here, mate. It's great to see you, and I love the intro and all the loveliness that's fluffy and everything good in the world.
That's how we roll, man. I mean, I've even got your website on the bottom. So before we start, look at that. Happy days for everyone. And I love that. Yeah. So everyone could check you out. But you know what? If people don't know about you, I don't know where they've been. But your story is absolutely incredible. I thought I had a mad life. My God, you just about beat me in what you've been. I've been flatlined once or twice. Well, once. Overdosed a few times myself. My drug of choice was crystal meth. I dabbled in cocaine and all that. But let's put all that to one side. Let's start off on how you got into house music and how you became one of the biggest players, biggest house DJs in the world. How did that all start, and where did that all start?
Well, you know what? I didn't realise you was into the meth, because I mean, obviously, I stopped taking drugs a long time ago, and I'm lucky. Obviously, I'm very lucky to be and very grateful. But I missed out on that. Luckily enough, I think missed out on that sort of influx of the new novel substances. I think they're called, aren't they now?
Yeah.
So how did it start? I don't know. So basically, I was an 80s kid. I actually was born in East London. I was born in Hackney, actually. I moved to Wembley when I was 3 years old, I think. I grew up in Wembley and did most of my work, let's say, and growing up in the real sense of the word in Wembley. It was a great growing up. I don't remember it being a bad time at all. And, the past traumas of childhood were more, for me, about parents getting divorced, being an only child, having the religious stuff going on, and culturally being, it was at a time when cultures were coming together and being isolated in a, minority, etc. So all this stuff, not that I know it now because I'm aware of it and we've worked on it, but that back then we were kids and we never knew anything different. We just went out and did what we wanted to do to have fun. And, for me to have fun was, and it was great. Don't get me wrong. I had a lovely time growing up in the 80s. It was pub 80s. There was all these new white pubs being painted and dance floors and DJs. And
I remember that.
More back then it was, he's the greatest dancer. I wonder why. And also some really cool jazz funk. That's where I grew up in that sort of music. I was actually taken under the blazer of one of the fourth years into the lunchtime disco, which was only really strictly meant to be for the fourth and fifth years. And I managed to get myself sneaked in, and that's where I learned how to dance like a jazz funk shuffle, let's say. And
you were a good dancer, weren't you, Blocky? I heard you had some moves on you.
To be able to do a knee spin or two, yeah. I tried it the other day, actually. It fell over on my back because I don't think the knees have got it anymore. But listen, it was a great time to grow up, and I think I've never actually. I think the 80s were fantastic, and moving into the 90s. Excuse me. So I suppose my love of music and love of anything hip hop and funk and soul and import records, and we went to this pub, which is where we did most of my growing up. My best mate, myself, and Ali, we still run parties today, and I'm very grateful for having lots of my old friends still big parts of my life, and 40 years down the line. So we used to go in the pub and we used to buy all the funk music, and we were called dressers at the time, young dressers, young casuals, I think we were called. So I remember one day there was a disco every weekend in my local pub, and the guy who usually did the DJing didn't turn up. So the boss of the pub said to us, "Look, go home, get your records, come back, play the tunes for the night. There's a lot of people coming." So we went back home. We got our little milk crates, or big milk crates at the time. For the 12 inches, we both walked down the road, or three of us at the time. We walked down the road with our milk crates, got back to the pub, played records all night. Everyone loved it. And he said, "Right, well, you may as well take over, and we'll just ask the other fella to leave, let's say." So that's what happened.
He should have turned up, shouldn't he?
Well, we don't take that lightly. We'll nip in as quick as we can. Yeah. And so we did it every week. It became busier and busier. It was incredible. And we didn't know that was going to happen, and it just did. It evolved. We ended up buying a comma van, a British Telecom old comma van. My mate Ali bought the van. I went to Tandy and got the personal account with all the DJ equipment for doing mobile DJing, and we went off and ended up doing like loads of the pubs which were involved in the group where we DJ'd, and they used to pick the nights of the week, and we used to go down to the pubs and just play Chelsea or wherever. We ended up traveling the whole of London doing these pubs, which was great. And then obviously moving to nightclub town, because I was 16, 15 at the time, doing a mobile DJing in the pub, which was probably not really allowed, but so 15, 16, I think we was allowed in the pub at 16 then. Yes, we were. And started DJing, and then we obviously started going uptown to the nightclubs, and we were frequenting all the cooler places, let's say. I mean, one of my really good plans, I'm still making the DJ today, is a place called Hombres. That was in Wells Street.
Hombres.
So my mate Johnny Norman was the DJ at Hombres, and we still speak now, and it was fantastic them days. But there was also like the clubs at Dingwall and Camden, and Dingwall's on a Sunday lunchtime, Best Disco in Town, Lyceum, all the cool, all the soul clubs that were happening, and they all started springing up in the 80s and the 70s. And then moving forward, the world opened up in acid house, and sort of as with most stuff that involved getting partying and hard, I did, my love of music took me everywhere. And, I was very fortunate to be around at that early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and move, transitionally into that environment, which, didn't seem at all bad at the time. I was actually really anti-drugs that I had an experience when I was like very young, which was, shouldn't have happened, but it did. And I experimented, and it just didn't work for me. And it sort of put me off. And I can't remember what happened to make me go, "Well, I'll have a try this." And, it just, the whole catalyst worked together very well for me at the time. But, it was, what a journey. Yeah, you're right. And it seems to fly when I think about the memories now. I mean, my life was consumed then by my going out. I think that was, I think there was, I'm not saying that was unique in that way. I think we all wanted to go out all the time, because, I think what we know now is, or what we've learned is, that our lives, however long that we've been living, our lives get more stressful. And I think that goes for everyone. The media stuff, the stuff we're taught by our parents, the stuff we look, the stuff we learn, the stuff we read, it all creates a certain amount of stress. So I think even back then we were all, trying not to live in the real world, because it's tough. It's, it gets scary, and, but anyway, that was the sort of the start of the musical journey, let's say, which was wonderful. I never regret any, I don't regret anything, but, some of the stuff I may have changed if I had hindsight, but we'll talk about all of that later. Yeah. I've got to say before we go, I had no idea we worked in the same environment for many years. I didn't know that. It's great to hear. CGL and was originally CRI, wasn't it? Crime Reduction.
That's right, yeah. Crime Reduction Initiative, wasn't it? Or something.
Which is not a name for something to help people with certain behaviours, Crime Reduction Initiative. And it went to Spectrum after that, and then CGL. That's
right, yeah. They do some wonderful work, and I feel honoured to be part of them.
I worked for Blenheim, which Blenheim was at the time. CP was the Community Drug Project, which originally came from South London. And I worked for one in Uxbridge, so you know it's great that you. I had no idea you were doing the same thing. You still work from now, which is brilliant. I'm going back. I'm going back into the field, I think, because my calling is asking me to do that. You know.
Okay, well maybe we can have a chat later, Brandon. You never know. You never know. But and I think that's what we do. People who've had lives like ours and lives like yours, especially, I think we a lot of us end up working in the field to try and help others the same way as we've been helped and trying to give something back because we know, right? We've been there, we know, and if we've got a bit of academia or a bit of professional work experience involved, we can provide the whole package and then try and help as many people as we can. But
Yeah.
when I mean, because you were huge, bro. I mean, when it comes to house music and house DJing, you were one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in the '80s, especially late '80s, mid '80s. You were just phenomenal. When did that life really sort of grab you? When did the actual proper drug taking and the whole toxic, which we can say now, lifestyle kick in?
Um.
And how did it happen?
Well, I think like most of us, we're unaware of the surroundings of what's going on. We just, if you go back to an old tool you use, you call it a cycle of change. We're mostly in pre-contemplation for while we're having a good time, and then obviously something happens. There's a trigger or an event of some magnitude. It could be your first hangover, could be your first interaction with, anxiety or feeling, anything over any little trigger that impacts on you will start a process of thinking. So for me, I think it probably happened quite early on. So I was probably in denial for many years. I think, when was that? I think, I don't know. I probably 88. I think I had been given a line of cocaine just 2 years previous, which at the time I was unaware of what it was, and it did the job at the time for what it was meant for, and it stopped me from being drunk and abusive and what have you. But then 2 years, 3 years later, I still hadn't triggered anything. I didn't know what it was. So it was only when I heard that that's what it could have been that I realized, oh, so there you go, the neural pathway starts again. So I suppose in 89, 88, that my journey of the downward spiral probably started, but I wasn't unaware. I was pre-contemplate. I wasn't prepared to anything about it, and it hadn't impacted on my life enough. So, but slowly and gradually, you get to sort of 3 or 4 years down the line when you're taking big risks with your life, then you have to make some decisions, don't you? And you start questioning, then you start justifying and minimizing and making little of what's going on until it actually becomes a real problem, and then you actually have to face it or demise, which I was really ready to do. So I suppose it was my awareness happened in the 90s. Sorry, I'm going to turn this. Is that you or me?
I think that's you, but that's all right, man. It's all good. It's all good.
So okay, so yeah, sorry, forgive me. So late 80s, early 90s, really. I mean, fortunately for me, I suppose during the 90s or whatever, I became aware. I became aware. I realised I had a problem, but I wasn't ready to do anything about it. I was too fearful, in fact, in all honesty, to contemplate life without doing what I was doing. And it was massively fearful. I was, I couldn't even imagine it without it. It was so entrenched in my behaviour, so used to what I was doing. So it was a moment for me to decide that it was enough. The
thing, I mean, you say within 4 or 5 years, it sort of really went over. Is that how fast it got to it? It just escalated within a space of 5 years.
Really quick. I mean, in relation to what we know when you do the work, and people's, I've been using for 10 years, I've been using for 15 years, I've been using it. Mine was 10 years, and that was it, the maximum. It was like sort of, I was out in 8-9 years, but as my reputation preceded me massively. Even to this day, like 20, 24 years later, people still talk about that. So thank you, mate. But yeah, it amazes me actually how quick it got to that stage of real self-loathing, but continually to do it. It was incredible. It was a real shitty place.
What was your worst experience of that lifestyle? What was your lowest and darkest moment?
I think. Well, look. I think, in all honesty, the lowest and darkest was when I came to. It came to be. It came to be how my life was at risk. Look, I think it was the 95, 96 when I actually realised that the whole existence was just around cocaine, and that was it. There was nothing else in my life. I had nothing else, and it was daily. And I realised, I thought, God, I don't do anything else. And I was lucky that I had that awareness to think, I don't do anything else. This is what I do all day long, every day. I came to the conclusion that this was not what I wanted to be doing. So I stopped it. I just, it was a great epiphany. It was like I had to be in hospital to do it. I would actually tell you, I was going to hospital because I was trying to get more painkillers and, downers and uppers and everything else to contend with, what I was doing to myself. And they said, we're not giving you anything, Mr. Block. You are a walking time bomb. We have no idea how to control this behaviour of yours. I had TB, which had gone. No, actually, not at the time. I had TB, hepatitis, chemical hepatitis. I had many illnesses which had, manifested through to my immune system being so ruined. And I was literally, passing away slowly through my use.
They gave you 2 weeks to live, right, Brandon?
I went 2 weeks. After that, well, I was in the hospital and I was sitting there rocking backwards and forwards like this on a chair waiting for these medications to be prescribed. And they said, you're not getting them. And I sat there and my mind, I put this down to an acceptance mode at this one point. My mind all of a sudden clunk. It went clank. It went. And I had that moment of clarity and I went, oh, all my stress had left me for that one moment. And I said, I've had enough. And when I said those words, I've had enough, it went, it was like I dropped to the floor and it's like my anxiety left me. Like the fear of saying no had left me. And I'd made that decision to stop. And it was like, now I can let go of the drugs in one place. And it's really powerful. And I don't know how it happened because, from then on, it was then a journey of dealing with anxiety and fear and, continually on a daily basis. Excuse me. So, yeah, a great awareness moment and a real epiphany. So I was very fortunate with that, And
then, do you want to talk about the Ronnie Wood thing? Because you know what, I was watching earlier, man. That was absolutely hilarious, and that's the sort of thing I would have done, but I didn't do it. You did it, Blocky. You did it. I mean, tell us the story behind it, because there's different stories going around, right? I don't know if you like talking about this or not, but there's different stories going around that you went to the toilet to do what you were doing and you came back and then your mate said that you. Let me hear what actually happened that day at the Brit Awards.
So, some friends of mine. I was at the Brit Awards. And actually the story is okay. So by default, my mate Matthew, who I grew up with, was a very close friend of mine, used to produce the after show party at the Brits. And he was partners with Jamie Wood, who's Ronnie Wood's son. And I know Jamie as well, with from clubbing days, etc. And this one night, Matt had asked me to DJ at the Brits, but I'd also had a hit record with Blockster the year before. So by default, because the highest dance act entry was the Whamdue project, which was King of My Castle. King of My Castle was American, so it couldn't be the British dance act. So we were the next second best, let's say. And we was nominated. And I said to the Ministry of Sound, who was my label, I said, look, we've been nominated. Or they said, we've been nominated. I said, well, get us a table. I said, no, we're not getting it. We're not going to win. I said, well, just do it anyway. So they said, okay, we do that. So we were there. I'd also been asked to DJ that night as well. So we went in a limo. I got very drunk and the rest is history. And they said, Dane from another level, Dane Bowers, he said, right, you've won an award. And I said, really? And I just went and got it. Well, I didn't go. I went out on stage. I just didn't think. I didn't ask. I just went, right, I'm going. And I went. And the rest of you've seen it. I stand up next to Davina McCall. Davina knew who I was. And she said, what's your name, mate? I went, oh, Brandon Block. And come on, we had a little tete-a-tete, which we weren't heading to each other. He for a drink on me, I for a drink on him. And that was, history. And I met him 2 weeks later at Sid Owen's leaving party from EastEnders because I was DJing. And we had a quick chat about it. It was quite funny, and we saw the funny side of it. But yeah, at the time it was slightly embarrassing. And yeah, you know, Brit folklore now, isn't it? It goes every time the Brits are on it show. So
Everyone, I mean,
years ago, man, 20 years ago. God, 19.
God, yeah, 2000, wasn't it? Yeah, 2000 Brit Awards. Wow,
Flies, man.
it seems like yesterday. But you were off drugs then, right? Or were you still dabbling?
Yeah. No, I've been off drugs for 4 years then.
Of course, you have 24 years. You said, didn't you? Yeah. So it's just the alcohol. So yeah, because you know what, everyone in house music knows you. The ones who don't know about house music, they all know you now because of that incident. So I guess everything happens.
I think after that I became a housewife's favourite.
I mean, it could have been anyone, but only a member of one of the biggest bands in the world. But hey, that's it, and that's what we do, isn't it, when we're in the madness? But so then anyway, so your life totally changed when you became sober. Are you totally sober now? Totally abstinent from everything?
Occasionally, I have a glass of wine with my family or down the pub, but yeah. I don't drink often at all. Very, very rarely, so more or less.
Do you miss it?
Say again?
Do you miss it? Do you miss that lifestyle? Do you miss DJing? Forget the job.
No. It's too far. It took me to a place where I never wanted to go again. That moment in the hospital was terrible. It was the worst I've ever experienced. I can't tell you how bad it was. It was even coming out of that. It was, my brain. I was living in an altered state. My mind had twisted with the amount of chemicals I took because my brain chemistry. So I had to rewire everything as well. So that journey's been happening as as I've continued on. But it was, it would never. I've never gone back. I never want to go back. And even what options have opened, that's never been on my. That decision was final, and I'm very grateful that it was at that time because there was not the information we have now. There was none of the knowledge. There was none of the none of the awareness. There was none of that stuff available to us. There was it was very, as you say, it was like anonymous. You couldn't say anything, especially about mental health or addiction or any of the other stuff. It was so stigmatized that if you spoke out about it, you were ostracized, weren't you? You was put in a corner and said, "Oh, can't be going near there." So thankfully now we have all this information and all the awareness and the stuff that's good to share with people and support people.
So what was your biggest support when you came into recovery? What did you go to the fellowships? Did you do the
I started with the fellowship, but you know what? In all honesty, I left after a couple of months. I never went. I mean, I did a certain amount, but my head was so how do I say it? It was so mushed that even for me to take on any of the learning or I couldn't even listen. I couldn't sit still for I had to be in a room on my own for a lot of time for me to just deal with what was going on for me and go to a meeting once a night. So it was actually stressing me more than helping me at the time. So I decided to go on my own, and I did, and I just went and learned about myself, and I sat there and thought about a lot of things I think about and why I thought about them and what the effect on me was, how it affected me physically, the emotionally, spiritually. And it's been a great journey. Don't get me wrong, I've loved it. And working in the field was an incredible awakener and learning experience because I'd not done any of that really. I just sat and worked on myself.
Before we get into all the work that you do today and the contribution you make toward mental health and drug addiction, I've got a few messages here. You may know them, you may not. There's a lady called Emmanuel. She says, listen to Brandon recently at Will Polston's. Oh, you know Will? You know Will Polston?
Yeah, I know Will.
I know Will.
Yeah. So it's a very we've come out of that. It's a very small world now. You've come out of a different world and gone into it's a lovely. I know Will very well. So
I went to a couple of his Make It Happen projects. I don't know if you know about his Make It Happen thing.
I get the emails. I've done a couple of Facebook lives with Will, and we did a couple of interviews. So fantastic man, love him.
Yeah, he's a lovely guy. He's an Essex boy as well, isn't he? That's the only downside, isn't it, Blocky? But hey, we'll allow that. No, but yeah. So she says, fab work and strength he has shown through adversity and recovery. Got a lady, Rebecca Dalton, Bex, who I know very well. She's saying, looking forward to this Saf Buxy, hey to Brandon. Then she says, awesome. Emmanuel again, hey Saf and Brandon. Rebecca Dalton, Bex, I could totally relate to what you were describing. Oh my God, I remember that Brits like it was yesterday. We've got a Facebook user, I don't know who it is, but you go, Mr. Block. So great to hear this. I've been to many of your dues. So happy that you've made a big turnaround. Another one from another Facebook user, mutual friends Tony Truman.
Yes, very well.
He's saying one of my best friends, small world. We've got Emma Armstrong, who I know Emma as well, actually from the prison service. I think it's the same Emma.
Good
And
work.
she's saying, Brandon, loving your honesty. Sal Knight's a very, very good friend of mine. Great to hear Brandon's journey and a reminder that working on self is so important through the recovery process. Got someone just put Adele, whatever that means. Does that mean anything to you? Adele. That's all they've put, Adele.
No, it doesn't mean anything.
Oh, then they put Adele. Then they put the same as Adele. So I don't know what that means.
Okay.
And then there's something. Brandon, you have done some work with Caroline Powell in Watford. A slice of happiness.
Yes. I'm an ambassador for the charity. I don't know. Yeah, she's wonderful. She does some great work. She preaches. She teaches the three principles, which is a model of self well-being and stuff. And she does some great work, Caroline. She's never endingly trying to house people in Watford, which is brilliant. But this is all this stuff we were doing before COVID and the pandemic, and the world's changed so much. But the thing about it is, sorry, it's really hot, isn't it? The thing about it is, and I think this is what we've got to be really mindful of, is that although we've been concentrating now on how to manage our safety and look after and support our families and friends and people who are, people who've lost their lives to this horrible thing, it's all the world hasn't just stopped. All that stuff's going to be still there, compounded with what's happening now. So the world has to change, and we have to be, I think, as a community, and we have to be more mindful and be more, aware of our fellow man. Ask the questions. Ask if someone's all right. If you see someone's not their usual self, and it can be happy or overly happy or underly happy or anything's different than normal, ask. Just say, all right, are you okay? And ask again. Caroline does so wonderful. I don't know what's happened to all these charities. We don't hear about it. This was stuff we worked on a daily basis before this happened. So we were quite in touch with what's happening in the charity field and homelessness and drug and alcohol, treatment system. We don't know now. Suicide's going to go through the roof. We don't know how we can support people like that. I suppose just getting awareness out and putting the crisis and emergency numbers out often, and making sure people know there is support out there. So, yes, it's going to be a very, strange time moving forward.
And you do a lot of work towards that. So I think it ties us nicely into the projects that you do. In particular, I want to talk about Happy Days for Everyone, which is the website which is scrolling down on the bottom of our link. How did that start? What do you do? What kind of work do you involve? Tell me a bit about that.
Right. So briefly, I started working then for Blenheim in 2010. I got the calling, like all humans do, to help people after a period of, in my recovery, let's say. And I thought I need to share my experience and, tell people how I can help them get better, and I went to work for Blenheim. My friend actually, turns out she was the service manager. She said, right, you can't just walk in here and expect to tell people what you've learned and that's it. It don't work like that. I said, why? She went, no, you've got to do some training. So I walked in and I became a volunteer. That week they had a training course started, which is MVQ. So I did that for 6 months, and I actually hadn't done any studying since school. And I never studied at school. So this whole environment of learning and doing essays and writing my reflective journal, let's say, was new for me. So it was fantastic to have that experience.
Blocky, 1 minute. Guys, this is Brandon Block, one of the biggest house DJs. Survived the history, survived the toxic lifestyle that he was having, became a survivor, came out of that lifestyle, and he's volunteering for a charity. That's what recovery can do. And the reason why he's doing that is because he wanted to help people. So I just wanted to say that, Brandon, because people need to understand the transformation that you've made. You're driving in limousines, you're going to his club, Dom Perignon, Belvedere, cocaine, music, all the other stuff that's going with it, on hospital beds, just about to die, right? Having spats with Ronnie Wood. Okay, we can laugh about that. And then a few years later, after all that, you're volunteering, doing NVQs for a charity in the drug and addiction field.
That's
Wow. Wow.
It's I think the thing about we need to realize, I want to realize, it will come to all of us in the end. We're social creatures. We need to help. We got that. We all have an empathic streak somewhere, and I think to maybe take yourself to the place of depths of despair and come back. That's what opens those doors of compassion and whatever, and kindness and empathy. And I'm very thankful and grateful that those doors opened for me, and I took the opportunity, which I did. And so I did the MBQ. I then got offered a permanent position doing the work, and I stayed there for 5-6 years. And then, as what happens in the treatment system often is, tenders go up, money, finances, and funding gets moved and changed, and the treatment system battles with that all day long. And so what happened was my service got swallowed up in one of the NHS trusts, but it wasn't then giving a holistic service. It was a tick box. How's your mental health? How's your drinking? How's this? How's that? Thank you very much. See if you can change it for next week. And that wasn't what I wanted to do. So this other opportunity arose for me to go and work very closely with people who have multiple complex needs. So it's people who have mental health issues, substance abuse issues, homelessness issues, and criminality issues, and all that bundled into one is a big problem. So we ended up having a very small team, a very small caseload, but we spent a lot of time with people trying to move them out of this real chaotic behaviour. So what happened to me is I got burnt out because we weren't supported. The organisation that was running this programme or this pilot weren't supporting us the correct way. We weren't only getting supervision, which for those of you know, we need to get the work out. You need to get rid of, you need to pass it over at the end of the day and say, look, this is what I've done. So I'm not taking it home with me every night, which I was doing. I ended up getting burnt out, both emotionally and spiritually and, mentally. For those who don't know what burnout is mental overwhelm. So on the back of that, while I was preparing to leave that job because that project was coming to an end, I got offered to go in the Celebrity Big Brother house. I'd been asked many times before, but I'd never actually got there because they always all tipped to the post, mitt to the post. And I thought, you know what, if it happens, it happens. I wasn't overly, and to go into that house after working with people's boundaries, confidentiality, marriages, having all those constraints to work under, and then going in and expected to be, they wanted old Brandon as well. And he's not there anymore. He left the building a long time ago. So I wasn't going to do what they wanted to do, really. I mean,
who was there? Who were you sharing with? Anyone? Who else was there?
Callum Best, Jamie O'Hara, Nicola McLean, Bianca Gascoigne, who else? James Jordan, Jedward.
Oh God, yeah.
One of the American ladies, a couple of the American girls. Anyway, people were great. There was lovely people, but I was in burnout. So I was in this place where I'm on camera 24/7. I've got this full of anxiety and not knowing what I'm in this house for because I don't know the reasoning. I've no idea. I still have to ask my question: what am I doing here? Do I want to be on telly again? Do I want to have a career in TV? Or I was asking myself the question. I worked with people who have issues, and I'm thinking. I suppose I was challenging myself, saying, "Why are you doing this? Is it for you?" And I'm thinking, "No, it probably isn't." Anyway, I was contemplating and reflecting. I didn't have to need to do a lot of that, and after 2 or 3 weeks I was in there, I got to a place where I just thought, you know what, I can't do this any longer. I wasn't coming out any quicker. I needed to prepare myself like 3 months before I went into that house, and I didn't. I had 2 weeks. So I left very quietly, and it was very under the radar, let's say. And I just said, look, this isn't for me. I walked out the back door and went straight to the kebab house, which I did. And then look, my life wouldn't have been where it is now if I'd have stayed in that house.
Really? Okay.
Well, look at it. If I'd have stayed in, maybe I won. Who knows? I mean, when I came out, and my mate said, "What did you come out for?" He said, "You was miles ahead, you know, in the polls and all that." So, you know, who knows? Hindsight. But I would have probably had a different path because I came out and then realised I had to do some work on myself because I was feeling very empty, emotionally drained, spiritually drained. So I just, you know, I went on a Tony Robbins event, which I found incredible. And I realized that if I did more work on myself, I would be able to get myself back to a place of where I felt okay.
So what did you do?
Can I just go to some more? I went on this journey and I'm still here. And the journey's been fantastic. So this rounds me into happy days, right? So another strange thing. So my mate Carl Pearsall, who you may not have heard of, he used to run a club called the Crazy Club, and he used to run acid house nights in Ealing, where I used to work. And he runs a thing called the Yes Group, which is a personal development group in London. It's the only one. And on the back of him seeing Tony Robbins in America, he then opened this group in London. So I kept on seeing Carl in the gym. He said, "You must come to my group." And I went, "What is it?" I had no idea. So I went along and I thought, "Oh, wow, I get it now. This is, you know, quite cool." And I realized that by, you know, working on myself again, doing some, you know, some seminars and hearing and listening to some reading and, you know, I could start building myself up again, which I did. So Carl introduced you to a lovely lady called Michelle Allen. We've in turn met a lovely lady called Gaynor Murphy and my other mate, Paul Byrne, who's you mentioned earlier. We now have this, it's going for charity status at the moment. So what we do is Happy Day started as a Facebook page where we do nice affirmations on a daily basis, share them, do some videos, do some interviews on Facebook. And the community created was incredible. And moving forward, we've sort of kept it going, although through COVID it's been difficult. But we've kept the community going. And what we came up with was an idea. How do we make, everyone's supposed to be happy, right? This is the new buzzword. Happiness is really hard to find at the moment, right? Because we don't know what's going on in the world. So we said, how do we, well, I knew, how do I become happier? So by changing some very small behavior on a daily basis and doing it like a habit change. The fact that you're achieving that goal every day will give you a better feeling. The fact that you've done something you wanted to change will give you a better feeling. And all those little things add up. And then you attempt to do bigger goals and more changes. So slowly over time, you start resonating at a better level. So you never go back. And then once you've done no change, you're never going to go back. Well, fingers crossed, you don't go back to the old lower levels. And even if something happens, you will have more tools enabling yourself to deal with life's curveballs, let's say. So Happy Days for Everyone became very popular and it's still going very, very well. And we've, as I said, we're getting for charity status. So that will soon be able to fundraise and, you know, we can do some workshops and events more so than we've done before. I've got some other projects. We designed an app for Solent Mind, which is in the process of being commissioned. A wellbeing app, like a progress tracker, and CGL had something a while ago, which Be Free it was called. I don't know if you knew about that. It was an app.
They've got a wellbeing app as well. Is that what you're talking about? They've got the wellbeing app that it shows you different places to go for help for. Is that what you're talking about, or is it something else?
Well, that was a signpost. No, this is actually a progress tracker. And I designed an app a long time ago called Get Well Together, and it was based on a recovery model for technology. But it was so complex, and I'm talking about having keywords on there, you know, organising your diary, because when you work in that environment, often the most difficult thing for people to do is engage. But if a small intervention can be given from a smartphone, i.e. log in and do an affirmation for the day, it starts the process, same as maybe doing a group or, you know, come and see a key worker. But if you find it hard to engage, at least you can maybe engage on the phone. So that was the idea. It was a big job. And it never came to it. Well, it's still sort of bubbling around. And then I've got the Tune Out group, which is an online, and it was started at the Ministry of Sound with Paul Byrne. And
I've been there. Lovely place. It was what a venue. What a venue.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic. So basically, that's a mental health support group on a monthly basis, but we do it weekly now on Zoom every Friday. We've had some great speakers. It's just about, people with like-minded people sharing their experience and sharing how they're coping through these, very strange times. And, if we can support each other by just talking, then more the merrier. DJing, we've had no gigs for 4 months. We don't know when they're starting again, really. There's a few private parties happening. But, we're focusing on the mental health. And I've also written I'm writing the process of writing a sort of mental health workshop, well-being day program called Life with Blocks.
Yeah, like it.
It's quite easy to understand. I find if I go to a seminar, I find the longer they are, the more difficult I keep to concentrate. And I think, ADHD, we've all got a bit of ADHD. So, yeah, I mean, look, there's loads of little things going on, which are really, really cool. And it's nice to be out there still, helping people in whichever way we can, supporting, however, raising awareness, making sure that everyone knows that they can reach out to wherever they need to be. There's loads of services. There's loads of, loads of people wanting to help. So it's great to be part of that stuff,
Of course it is. And it's incredible the work you do. And before we come to the end, if you like, and I want you to give a nice last message or last thoughts. Got a couple of other messages. Bex is saying community centres all the way. Bloody amazing, whatever that means. Reality TV doesn't compare to helping those with complex needs.
No.
You wouldn't have found it fulfilling.
No, absolutely not. And yet I was lucky enough. I had that sort of. I suppose if I'd have stayed in there, who knows what would have happened? I don't know if I'd have got more insular. I don't know, but you're right. It doesn't compare. The feeling of helping someone moving forward in their life against real struggling and real big odds is incredible. And we had some really good outcomes. It was very, very heartwarming and very touching.
Yeah.
I cried a lot in that job. I'll be honest with you. I did cry a lot. Yeah. Of course, I used to come home a lot and cry at night and just think, how can someone, how does the world let people end up in these places? When we have the capacity to support many, many people, not just the people who need support. We've got the stuff to do it, haven't we? And it just frustrates me how people are allowed to slip through that net and end up where they do. But slowly but surely we're changing things, I think, and this is what's coming out of COVID. And the community will be. We hope it still holds fast. We don't want to go back to the old way before. We want to keep it moving forward and keep it meshing.
I'm a strong believer that humanity is at its best when we work as a collective, when we work in communion, when we work to support. And I hope one day that happens with more people than it is happening at the moment. Valentina McFarland, she says, "Aloha, brothers, blessings and love." Oh, we've got a living legend. I don't know if you know him, but his name's Prince Fleet Easton. Does that name ring a bell to you?
Maybe seen that somewhere.
Prince Fleet Easton. He's an American. I think he's from California. He's an entertainer. He's unbelievable. In fact, I know him because I'm doing a summit this Saturday night, a global networking summit.
Wow.
Leon Hendrix is going to be there. Jimi Hendrix's brother, Fantuzzi. Obviously, Prince Fleet is actually the master of ceremonies. You're welcome to join us, Brandon. I'll send you the details.
You send me the link. Maybe I'd love to talk on it at some point if you can arrange that. Maybe Prince could arrange that for us. But yes, I'd love to join him, mate. Send you the link over.
Yeah. It's this Saturday night. I'll see if we can get you in to have a little chat. Actually, obviously it's during the day in California, but I'm talking at 9:15 p.m. So okay. So Prince Fleet, possibly Marion Williamson's going to be there, the author, the motivational speaker, politician, Scott Katamas, TJ Woodward. So a few people that you might like, a couple of rockers, heavy metal. So he's putting his thumbs up to you. Sal Knights has given 2 messages. Any positive change, however small, is still change in the right direction. Absolutely. Love what you are doing, Brandon.
Thank you.
And then she goes on and says, we all need that collective compassion for each other.
Absolutely.
That's the way forward to help more people.
Listen,
Lovely.
if you let go of comparisons and judgment, you can embrace everyone else, you know, and that's what we've been conditioned to do. We compare ourselves on social media, on, you know, when you look at what we said on the news, you know, we always compare the old saying, you know, don't keep up with the Joneses. Well, the Joneses are now not people who live down the road. They're in front of you on your phone. And,
Yeah.
and that's, you know, that's what we look at every day, and we think, oh, doesn't that look great? Why am I not good enough? Why am I don't have that? You know, be happy with yourself. Happy with whatever you've got. You know, if you can be grateful for whatever you've got on a daily basis, and you can make the small changes, as you say, in very small increments. Doesn't have to be big changes. You know, now is a time when we may have taken the foot off the gas a little bit, and we could probably work a little bit harder on ourselves in the morning or whenever. And what I tend not to do, if I try not to, not try it, but I mean, I made a habit of not picking my phone up first thing. I do some meditation, I do a bit of exercise, do some Wim Hof breathing, deep breathing. And then, you know, maybe I look at my phone, you know, whenever, because everyone does it. First thing you do, pick your phone up. It's like your right arm, but you start the stressors. As soon as you look at your phone, you're looking for those dopamine hits, and they're not always dopamine hits. Then some of them are, you know, cortisol, anxiety, you know, inducing messages. So, yeah, you're right. The collective humanity is, if we can look at each other differently and look at each other with compassion, kindness, no judgment, you know, no cultural differences, no religious differences. Just we are what we are, and we're all helping each other in these times. You know, look at that explosion in Beirut yesterday. Bloody hell, man!
Jeez, I've never seen anything like that. Never seen an explosion like that.
I've never seen it. Not so. I thought, God, it's a terrible. You know, and you know that takes you out of. You know, you've got to look at that stuff. It's still going on around the world. The world hasn't just ended.
No.
You know, there's lots of people still, you know, suffering around the world, and you know. The thing is, it's hopefully created a human consciousness. We're aware of a lot more now, and hopefully we can continue to be aware of a lot more. We, you know, take the head out of the sand, and if, you know, as you know, and you work in the field, so you know, if you live in the present moment, and you don't preempt the future, and you don't live in the past, you can manage looking out for other people. If you're not consumed in your own stuff, you can live
you know, your message is so wonderful, Brandon, but I want you to finish on something close to you, a message out there to people. And you've more or less said quite a few things already, but with regards to mental health and addiction, if there's someone right now suffering with either or both, what advice or message can you give them?
Look, I think the best message is you're not alone. Humans are addicts. Don't ever label yourself as a unique addict, because we're all addicts. And if your addiction is taking you to places where it's difficult to manage, reach out. I know it's difficult, and I really know it's difficult to engage, but find your local service. Talk to Saf. Anyway, message me. Just don't feel afraid to do that, because that's the most important thing. The first move will start the ball rolling and start the behavior change and start the thinking change. You know, humans, we aim for pleasure. We're pleasure seekers. We want to change. And you think about this. Fundamentally, our normal, let's say our normal level of living is stressed. We don't wake up and go, "Wee," every day. It's difficult to do that, because we look at our phones and we look at the messages that are given to us. So we think, oh, our stresses have been released. It's a chemical thing, a biological thing. It's not all about, you know, mental illness. It's you know, my view is, it's only my view. I don't believe it's an illness. I believe it's conditioning, bad habits, and, you know, thinking wrong, basically. You know, I think you can change all that, and we know that now through the information given to us. Neuroplasticity, you know, changing your brain function, changing the way you look at things, changing your perception, NLP, all these, you know, new models of brain health, because we all have a mental health. It's just how healthy it is, and we can manage it on a daily basis. So I suppose the message is, be kind to yourself. Don't drive yourself mad. If you didn't achieve what you did today, you can always do it tomorrow. Pick the important things, do those, and if you only get a couple done, just be proud of what you've achieved. It's very difficult in the times we're living in to achieve these incredible goals that are expected. Don't go by other people's expectations. Don't compare yourself, and don't judge.
That's
all that in one.
Like that was...
Take those notes. You'll be a lot happier and a lot less stressed. Let's say if you can adapt those practices. Takes time, but practice and do it.
Beautiful message. And if anyone wants to get in touch with Brandon or get involved with Happy Days for everyone, you've got the website down there. You can find Brandon there. You can find him on Facebook, on the Happy Days Facebook page. Give him a message, and I'm sure he'll be able to help you.
You can message me on my own page if you need to reach out. I'm happy to share whatever information I've got. And Happy Days for everyone. We can message on there. There's the Get Well Together page. You can message on there. We're out even on Instagram, which I don't use often. Maybe I just don't, because I find some of that it could be overwhelming. So I think you can contact me. It's fine. I'm happy for you to do that, and we can talk or find something to help you. But don't be afraid to reach out. I think that's the message.
Thank you very much, Brandon. Thank you. Just want to remind everyone, you've been a great guest, and I'm so honored and humbled to have you. And you're just an incredible human being, especially after what you've been through, and what you do today in the world is just phenomenal. And I thank you. I thank you for doing this for everyone. You're a great man. Just before we finish, guys, let me remind you about the event that I'm involved with. It's called Rainbow Connection. You can check on my Facebook page, on my personal. We are in collaboration with unified.org, the Sign Network, Spiritually Gone Wild. It's a massive event. It's going to reach millions. If you want to network, like a speed dating network event with a few famous people there, hopefully Brandon will be there. Check it out. Go onto the link on my Facebook. I'll try and get it on Brandon's Happy Days Facebook as well. It's something that you'd love. It's a free event. If you want to go into the breakout rooms, it's something like $11, and you can network. So it's a great event. In the UK, it's going to start about 8 p.m. And finish about 1 a.m. in the morning, because it starts in California. So everyone's welcome, and you get to see me speak at 9:15 at night. But hopefully Brandon, we'll try and get Brandon there. If not, I know we can get Brandon another event, because he's just someone who's just full of service. Thank you again, Brandon. You have been great, and I just love what you do, and I love you as well. Thank you, sir.
My hat's off to you. God bless you. Well done. Thank you for having me on. I hope everyone just be good to each other. That's it, man. And you and Saf, let's chat more, man, because I'm looking to diversify. Let's say I think I'm getting the calling to go back into the work again. So maybe you can put the work.
You and me, Brandon. Who knows, man? We could be the twins, Bob, that no one knew about. Do you know what I mean? Man. I think it could be work. Who I was chatting to the other day? I don't know if you know DJ Natty.
Yes.
I was chatting to Natty the other day. Stevie Altman. Steve Altman, don't you?
Very, very well.
And we know someone actually quite close. Do you know Ange?
Ange.
Who works for BP.
Yes, I know what you mean, Ange.
Yeah, Ange. Yeah.
Of course I know Ange. Oops.
Yeah.
1 second, mate. 1 second. My time limit's gone off. See, I'm even mindful of my screen time. It goes off at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, Ange. Well, I used to be business partners with her partner Chet. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah.
Chet, sorry, from the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. That's right. Yes.
I could tell you a few stories about Chet, but I won't embarrass him. But anyway,
he's doing all right as well, isn't he? He's doing okay.
He's doing very well. So good luck to him. Anyway, Brandon, thanks a lot. We're going to keep on chatting, but thank you, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot of response on this show, and you've given a great message. But thank you very much for everyone who's listened to my show this week. Inspirational people, inspirational stories. We've definitely had someone who's a great inspiration to me and to many people around the world. Next week we've got someone else, but her name's Dom. She's an ex-US military something. I don't even know, but her story is incredible too. So she's here next week. But this week it's been Brandon Blocky, the legend himself. Wicked. Have a great week. Be safe, and see you guys on Saturday night, man. See you on Saturday night. Look on my Facebook page, Saf Surgery or Saf Buxy or whatever. Hopefully Brandon will have it on his page. Come and join us. Come and do some networking. It's going to be a massive event. Millions of people.
I would love to
worldwide.
Wicked.
Lovely. Cheers, Brandon. Cheers, buddy. God bless.